What is it that makes you a Witsi?
I don't know. I guess hope for a better future.
To be a Witsi for me means a lot of hard work, supporting each other through hardships, and just also having fun through those hardships.
To be a
and struggles.
Witsi is to someone like can conquer the edge. As they always say, like Wits gives you the edge. That was the old motto, but I still think it heavily applies to Wits still to this day.
So many things, right? Our worldviews are shaped by our experiences, what we learn, and most importantly, just like these highly talented individuals, where we come from as well.
I was actually born in Pretoria, but from the time when I was about 2, I've lived in Joburg. So I see myself as a proud Joburger, pretty much born and raised.
I was born and raised in Johannesburg, and I went to public schools in Johannesburg, to the government schools, Saxonwold and Waverley.
Raised and born in Windsor East, I remember. And then we moved to this very green, leafy suburb called Linden. So that's where I spent majority of my high school years.
But Witsis also hail from other parts of Mzansi.
I grew up in Durban on the east coast of South Africa, and I went to school in a technical high school, actually.
Others, like me, were born and raised Kokasi.
I was born go Baragwana Hospital. I was raised go Orlando West, Pefeni. Then later went to Meadowlands, to my parents' house. But I was primarily brought up by my grandmother.
I was born in Pretoria, Soshanguve. We lived there till I was around 7. And then after that, we moved to Rustenburg, lived there for a year. And then after that, moved to the Free State, lived in Virginia for maybe from my grade 2 till grade 7. Then after that, moved to Randfontein, where my mother currently lives. So I've moved around quite a lot.
Then there are those Witsis who cross boundaries.
I was actually born in Vereeniging, not very far from here. And I had my primary schooling at Drierivier Laerskool. But when I reached the end of my primary school education, my parents moved to Mexico City. So they took the family along. I have 2 sisters, and we basically then went to school in Mexico City.
So I was born in Malawi, and we moved to Ethiopia just 3 months after I was born. My dad was working at the University of Addis Ababa, and then we spent 3 years there. And we relocated to Swaziland for about 10 years, Kingdom of Eswatini as they call it now. And that was a lot of my childhood. We spent my primary school years there and part of my high school before we relocated to South Africa for about a few months, I'd say 6 months before we left to Kenya. And Kenya was where I finished my high school years. Growing up wasn't always fun as a child. You're frustrated by having to start making new friends again and learn a new community, a new world. But when I look back, I'm very thankful for the opportunities to get to meet new people and learn more about other African countries.
And there you have it. A cosmopolitan space with people from cities and towns across multiple countries and continents. Wits University is a place where diverse learnings and teachings from around the globe come together to create a top-class tertiary education institution. But being one of the best does not come easy. It's a journey often starting with the anxiety, stress, and fears of being a first-year student. The confusion of finding your next lecture hall, the challenge of the thick readings, and the overwhelming hubbub of voices and sounds can be daunting, especially if you're coming from a specialized school like me. That was my experience as a fresher with visual impairment from a school for special needs. University is a balancing act Between academic responsibilities, personal growth, and navigating a new social environment, students often find themselves overwhelmed. In this 5-part podcast series, we explore the stories of Witties from various backgrounds, examining what it truly means to be a part of the Wits community and how to hack it academically, socially, and professionally. Welcome to the first episode of the Hack Your Future podcast. Today, we'll explore essential strategies for thriving in university and beyond. We'll hear from some of Wits University's greatest academics, professionals, and activists who gained their edge from one of South Africa's top universities. I'm your host, Melusi Ncala, and today's episode is all about mastering the balance between academic choices and personal aspirations.
So I'm always driven by people with a vision, and that's because I myself have a vision for where I want to go, where I think the country should go, where my group should go. In 2014, Adam Habib had this program for distinguished professors, and the idea was to attract A-rated researchers to Wits, essentially to enhance and build the already very good profile of the university in preparation for its centenary.
Professor Andrew Forbes is a founding member of the Photonics Initiative of South Africa, which aims to accelerate photonics research and impact in South Africa. He was recruited from the University of KwaZulu-Natal to establish a laboratory of structured light at the School of Physics. It took some convincing to get Professor Forbes to join Wits.
And so for a year, Wits was trying to convince me to move. I was working at the CSIR at the time. I had a research group there, a very successful research group. And for a year, I thought, why should I move? What's the point? I'm already very happy and very comfortable. And then I decided, you know what? I like the vision of Wits. I like the fact that they want to be world leaders, African leaders. They want to make a splash, do fantastic science. And yeah, it's a vision I want to be part of. And I also thought, the reason that I didn't want to move, that I'm very comfortable, maybe that's exactly the reason I should move. I always think that if you want to do amazing things, you have to get out of your comfort zone. And so I moved to Wits.
Professor Forbes quickly got things rolling. After starting his new academic venture in 2015, he was joined by a young aspiring academic, Dr. Isaac Nape.
I started my undergrad at UP, University of Pretoria, and while I was there, I fell in love with quantum mechanics, but I didn't like too much theoretical physics type work. So I thought maybe I need to find something that is also practical. And then I found my current supervisor, Andrew Forbes. And so then I joined him for a master's degree. Then so I came to Wits, so this was like in 2016. So I started with him and I also stayed with him for a PhD. And now I'm still here as a lecturer.
Dr. Nape is not just a researcher and lecturer, but also serves as a chairperson of Optica, leading in the field of quantum information processing. But what do Professor Forbes and Dr. Nape do? What is photonics? Professor Forbes explains.
If I were to narrow down, we call it structured light. And the analogy that we give to people is that We structure light in the same way that you might weave a pattern into cloth. You cut and weave and you tailor the cloth to be some garment. Well, we tailor light to make it do what we want it to do for us. But that's a very niche, narrow field. If I broaden it out a bit, the bigger field is photonics. Photonics comes from photon, it's a particle of light, and photonics is about harnessing and controlling light. And why would you want to do that? Again, if I give public talks, I always explain to the public, look, 20, 30 years ago, if you speak to your parents, they would make telephone calls with electrons going down copper wire. We had copper wire everywhere to make a telephone call. Now it's light down fiber optics. If you think of the old television sets, they had these big tubes at the back end. It's because it was based on electronics, electrons. Now they're very thin. It's because it's based on photons, photonics. Pick up your smartphone, look at the front. It's a liquid crystal display. It's all photonics. No electrical buttons. It's all pictures. Turn it over, you just see lenses. Lenses, cameras, LEDs, all light-based devices. So gradually we are seeing a shift from electronics and semiconductors of the previous century to photonics and light-based technologies of today. If you make a modern car, you don't drill it with metal drills, you cut it with lasers. So photonics is one of these fields that can make a huge impact scientifically. You can win a Nobel Prize, and you can make a huge impact economically. You can change the economy of a country with photonics. And that's what drives me, this idea that you can win a Nobel Prize and you can get super rich. You can train students for the next generation of teachers, or you can train them to be industrialists and grow our economy. If you're a scientist and you don't dream of winning a Nobel Prize, then you should really look yourself in the mirror and ask whether you're in the right field and doing the right things. So if you ask me, do you dream of winning such a prize? Definitely yes. If you say to me, do you think you will win one? Then I'd have to say, I can think of a lot of people who've done much better work. I still haven't done something at that level.
Given how driven Professor Forbes and his team are, reaching for the stars may be a small feat. Dr. Nape, for example, has been dreaming big since primary school.
My journey with science started off with this astronomy quiz that I did when I was in primary school, grade 7. And we managed to get quite far with it. So I actually thought, in the end, maybe I could become an astronomer. And my mom pushed me towards the academic route. She really supported me doing physics, even though my dad wanted me to be an engineer. So I always dreamt about being a scientist. And I think I'm quite fortunate to have been blessed to see that through. And even today, I still dream about being a super scientist. I'm already a scientist, I'm trying to establish myself, but then I'm trying to see how far I can push it.
Adopting this mindset did not come easy for Dr. Nape, as science is a challenging field.
You have to be extremely analytical. And coming from our public schooling system, it was quite hard to adapt to university style learning. So I really struggled from first year to third year to just get into the pace of doing things like a university student. I like to think that I only learned how to study properly, for example, when I was in second year. So first year was quite tough. So sharpening those analytical skills took a long time.
Social pressures also played a role.
In the South African context, especially for African Black people, academia is not really a thing that our parents see as a career that ends somewhere. In our communities, we don't find uncles who are lecturers who would say, give this kid a chance, they'll find themselves there. So the main challenge came from society. How do I convince my parents that this is somewhere to go? My mom supported it, but everyone else didn't really see. Being PhD at the age of 27, 28, everyone at that time expects you to be working and earning a salary already.
Professor Forbes faced his own hurdles. Initially aspiring to be an astronomer, he shifted focus to lasers and light due to commercial interests. Fate intervened in his late 20s.
My career path is very strange because a lot of the decisions were made for me, actually. So for instance, when I finished my PhD, I was doing it at what was then called the Atomic Energy Corporation. I was registered at UKZN, but I was doing the research at this big institute. And one day, right at the end of my study actually, they came in and said, unfortunately, we're going to close down this entire program. It's too expensive. So come next week, you'll start to get retrenchment letters. And I was a little bit shocked because I thought, well, I'd work there for the rest of my life. And now I suddenly realized that I wouldn't be working there from next week. And so that little shock forced me and some of my friends to start a company. So I went straight from wrapping up my PhD to a startup company. And what happened was an Australian company came out and said, look, they're closing down your program. Why don't you and a whole bunch of other people that they thought were good, why don't you all move to Sydney and do the same thing there? And my friends and I said, well, look, we don't really want to go to Australia, but we'll build the lasers that you want for you by starting a company if you give us a contract to do it. So you see, it was kind of a very abrupt change, and that set me on a completely new path, a path going into commercialization and working with venture capitalists and starting up a small entity from nothing. It was a great ride. On the day when I got the news, I thought, oh no, this is awful. My entire plan for my nice cozy life at this big institute is now finished. And then after a few days, I thought about it, and our friends, we chatted about it, and then we had this idea, well, why don't we start this company? And then it was a very liberating experience. It went from, this is the end of the world, and what am I going to do with my life, to this is the beginning of a new life and a new pathway, and has completely open-ended possibilities. It was very exciting, actually, in the end, from complete despair to high excitement.
Understanding the anxiety and uncertainty students face, I spoke with Kerry Gordon from Wits University's Counseling and Career Development Unit for advice on choosing a career path.
I think part of it is kind of what interests you. So ideally, you want to be able to imagine yourself dealing with these kinds of things on a daily basis for a couple of decades to come after you qualify. That would be ideal. But what also comes into it is your personality. So if you're an introvert or an extrovert, or if you get really excited by structure, or if you more go with the flow, if you're okay with high pressure, or maybe you want something more relaxed, those things are also going to factor into it. What also factors in is what you value, what's important to you. You know, do you want to make a difference to the world? Do you want to change the world? Do you find it really fun to be in a lab on your own all day? Or do you really just want to do your job and go home and not to worry too much about it? So I think your values, your personality and your interests, and then lastly, what you're good at. So we can't pin our future on something that we're not sure we're going to pass if there's something else that we're really fantastic at.
At this juncture, it is worth hearing from Professor Benjamin Rosman, who is part of the School of Computer Science and Applied Mathematics, where he runs the Robotics, Autonomous, Intelligence and Learning Laboratory. Reflecting on many of the strategies we've discussed for succeeding in contemporary life, he shares insights from his journey as a student who initially aspired to be a game producer, but was confronted with a tough decision.
There's been lots of hard decisions, and well, at some point I came across this idea of artificial intelligence as something that I could actually study. And at that point, we had a taster of it here, but we didn't really have much exposure to this here in South Africa, really. And I ended up actually going to do my master's and PhD abroad because those opportunities at that point weren't available here. Subsequently, when I came back with the vision that no one should ever have to go abroad to study these things again, that we should be able to offer them here. Anything amazing taught anywhere in the world, there's no reason it shouldn't be taught here as well. But there was a time when I had to make this decision to leave the country, which was also tied to this decision to change my direction from, I was really interested in building games, to moving into this area of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And that was very much driven kind of by the idea that I wanted to do the coolest thing that I could. And, through the gaming, you end up needing to bring in elements of intelligence into that. You've got other characters in your games you want to interact with. And so it becomes something to think about. And then this blew me away even more. This was like really trying to understand intelligence. This was trying to build intelligent things. And I could see there were just so many possibilities for what this could do that I started having this new area really pulling at me strongly, and eventually I think stole my heart. That this was the thing that I was convinced I wanted to now be spending my time on. Subsequently, I've described this as you should always be working on the coolest thing that you could possibly do. And I think if you're excited about something, and particularly if you can see the potential in that you can do things with it, even if you're not exactly sure how, because at the beginning you're never going to be entirely sure how, then it's sometimes worth taking that leap of faith.
Okay. What about people to guide you? Are they helpful in such situations? After all, Dr. Nape was Professor Forbes' mentee for quite some time.
He likes to joke around and say he's my academic dad. But he's more like a friend. Hey? His office is always open. He's a friendly guy. You can go chat to him about anything, ranging from finances, relationship matters, and of course work.
Mentors will by definition have more experience than you. That means that they have some of the practical knowledge that you might not have about how this field or how this career works. They are only one person, so they don't know everything, and we should remember that their experience is unique and their own. But student mentors can be really, really helpful in helping to show you what's ahead, and so to show you what's going to happen in the next few years as you get to a later point in your degree, and maybe some advice on how to cope with that. And mentors as lecturers or staff can help you even more to show you what it's like in this field realistically and what your options might be and which might be wise ways to go. And then career advisors like we have at the CCDU are thinking more generally about you. So we're not necessarily in the same field as you will be, but we can look at you as a holistic person and help you to think about realistically what are your options going to be in the different areas. So there it's a more general conversation focused on you as a person.
As we conclude this episode, remember that balancing academic choices with personal aspirations is a journey filled with challenges and opportunities. Our next episode will be about staying true to yourself while remaining determined and focused. Hack Your Future is a production brought to you by Wits University. The show is hosted and produced by me, Melusi Ncala. The music and sound engineering is by Calvin Puerta. A special thanks to the Head of Marketing and Communication at Wits, Sharona Patel, Zinez Kosana, and the rest of the team for assisting with planning, designing, and the management of this project. Stay tuned for our next episode where we continue to explore the journeys of Wits alumni and how they are shaping the world. Subscribe, share, and let us know your thoughts by leaving a review. For more on Wits University, please visit www.wits.edu. www.wits.ac.za.